Hi friends, welcome to today. My goodness, today is going to be extra fun. This has been a topic that I have just been hyper focused on. And I don't know if anyone saw me. Hi Darsh, getting your wellness in. I don't know if anyone has heard me share this on social media recently, but I had this experience the other night, okay, where I was in this dream. In the dream, I don't know if you guys have been experiencing this as well, but my dreams have been so vivid and so real. So whatever energies, right? Yeah, Sarah's like, yep, yeah. So I'm in this dream and I'm legitimately holding little baby Nikki. And in this dream, I just began to start crying. Like I could feel my heart open up. And there was something that woke me up. And when I woke up, I felt like super bummed because in this dream, it was like tears of relief. It was tears of joy. I can feel this whole and complete me again while I was holding little baby Nikki. And then that morning I started to just go through different phases of my life as a child. I started to connect with little 5-year-old Nikki, who just felt like paralyzed by shyness. I started to connect with 7 and 8-year-old Nikki, who felt absence of social abundance. I started to connect with 11-year-old, 12 years old Nikki, and 14. And I was literally just laying in my bed in this meditative state, feeling this connection with my inner child. And I could legitimately feel my heart open. And that was sort of the catalyst to begin to host a Creating Clarity, Healing Your Inner Child webinar today, because so many of us, as we're progressing on our spiritual path and our adventure, we still feel absent of that self. And the question is why? So I want to begin today with sharing, a little bit of a story, and I want to challenge each of you today. I want to challenge you guys because I want to get into a little bit of a discussion here to see if you can extract the lesson from this story. Now, some of you may hear the lesson and it might sound obvious because I might say it throughout the story, but I want to see if you guys can extract the lesson from this story. So for those who, know a little bit about me, you know that I sing. I like to write songs and things of that nature. And I really began that journey when I was not 10. I almost said 9, around 10. I've always been drawn to performing arts. My dad, he wouldn't, he wouldn't say himself he's necessarily a good singer, but he would sing to us all the time, playing the guitar. And I had this pull towards the arts, performing arts, singing and writing songs. And I wrote my first song when I was 10. And our music teacher at our elementary school, she lived down the street. And she began giving me guitar lessons. And then she had me perform in front of the class, a couple of times. And the more that I performed, the more that I sang, the more I enjoyed it. But it was still something that elicited fear within me. And my dad, he began putting me in different performing arts groups outside of school. And I was always resistant towards it. Literally so bummed. But then eventually I would find some joy in it. I would find some joy, whether it was in singing a new song or whatever it might be, right? I would find some joy in it. And as I begin to progress on my path, you enter middle school, kids start to think that they're all cool and all that. None of my friends and anyone that I knew and anyone that was sort of had this persona as cool was into performing arts. It was nobody sang, no one was pulled. For as long as I can remember, I've been the sensitive kid. And that wasn't, to me, my brain began to digest that as that's not cool, that's not whatever. I mean, that's honestly the word we could use, cool. And because of this, I began to get super shy and embarrassed about playing the piano, singing, to the point that I would ask my parents frequently, please don't tell and I had 2 best friends, please don't share with them that I'm going to these singing classes and these performing arts things. And then I was playing basketball in middle school. And I would literally, because my dad's got a big mouth. I love my dad, he's got a big mouth. He's very much like himself, right? I would beg him, please don't, because I would have to show up late to basketball practice. Please don't share with the coach and the teammates where I was, which I was in my performing arts group, and I had to show up late to my basketball practice. I would beg him. The more I felt shameful of this, the more I felt embarrassed about this aspect of who I am, the more I felt like my social life was suffocating. The more I was worrying about what other people were thinking of me. The more, frequently worried about what people were thinking about me. My friends were thinking about me. I'd ask my friends, what is, like another one of our friends, does he talk, like it was just a chronic worrying about what people think about me. And the more I hid this from them and from the world, the more this, we're just letting more friends in here. The more my outer reality reflected me abandoning the self. Okay, so I felt I was abandoning the self. That's interesting. Now my life outside of me, I'm starting to feel like people are abandoning me. And for those that have heard a little bit about my story and my upbringing and feeling alone, I'll just share quickly. When I was in middle school, at the end of the day, kids would walk about this 1/4-mile trail to get picked up. And it was kind of like another recess. And you'd walk with friends and things of that nature. Every day, I'd be walking alone, just so embarrassed. Nobody knew I sang. Nobody knew that what I loved to do. I was embarrassed about it. I'd walk alone. I remember just being so, feeling paralyzed by that because everyone could see me walk alone. Okay, now let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, high school comes around. And the local church was hosting this sort of like retreat or a camp, you could say, houseboating thing out on Lake Shasta. Has anybody here been to Lake Shasta? Show of hands. Nobody? There's like a portal at Mount Shasta, and they're like an hour from each other. Could not recommend going to Shasta enough. I mean, there is if you want to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, there's people that exist in the center of Earth. Okay, but that's a whole other topic. But everyone's like, what? Anyway, that's a whole other topic. Anyway, so a lot of the kids, whether you went to church or not, I didn't go to church, but a lot of the kids from high school, the high school within that town, there's 2 or 3 high schools within my town, went to this houseboating trip. And it was great. I mean, a lot of kids, and they had a talent show at this houseboat trip. And at this moment, I was had this pull to sing in front of everybody. Now again, up until this point, I had been hiding this from the world. Now people started to know it a little bit, but singing in front of my peers, singing around people my age, people that that time I thought were cool, right? That sounded horrific to me. What are all these people going to think of little Nikki? This kid that has been protecting himself for so long. So anyway, I didn't fully get the courage to sing, but I had some friends that knew I wanted to do this that pushed me to sing. And these new friends I made actually went on stage with me. I was around 15 or 16 at the time. And I sang a song I wrote called Morning Sun. Been sitting in the morning sun, working on my blues. Anyway, and I just remember the crowd erupted. And I remember how proud my friends were of me. I remember feeling like this new lease on life. And if anyone's ever heard me share this other story, which is at around 16, I had this new spiritual awakening. It was right after this trip. I had a massive spiritual awakening. I come home from this trip, and my dad, who's always been into this sort of the metaphysical world, spirituality, he read me something out of an Abraham Hicks book about a higher self. And for as long as I can remember, I've been spiritual, but and I've said this before for those that have heard me say this, it's always resonated on a heart level. It didn't really resonate on a mathematical, I didn't get it. I attempted to integrate sometimes in middle school. He read me something about a higher self where mathematically it made sense. I was like, oh, this makes sense. Overnight, my life completely shifted. I began to frequently sing in front of people, share frequently more aspects of myself. And the more I begin to share aspects of the self, as all of you know here, we are the creators of our reality. I began to love that little shy Nikki. Guess what other people began to do? I think you guys know where I'm going with this story. When we have experiences as children where we don't feel safe, when we're when we experience fear and shame, the brain wires itself to protect you, okay? The amygdala, which is this almond-shaped area of the brain designed for threat detection, becomes hypervigilant, okay? But here's what's cool, okay? What science has shown us is that when we have what's called corrective emotional experiences, so my example of that is getting on stage regardless of my fear, okay? When we have these corrective emotional experiences, the brain literally changes. And I want you guys to hear the simplicity in that. It's not that simple. When we lean into our fear and lean into the parts of ourselves that felt abandoned as kids, maybe we abandoned the self, maybe we had an experience that caused us to feel abandoned, the brain literally changes, okay? Because it begins to associate safety with those new experiences. Okay, does that make sense with everybody? Nikki getting on that stage, okay, getting the applause, people sharing how much they love my songs, they couldn't believe I was a songwriter and a singer. The brain goes, you're safe, okay? Now, I've shamelessly shared bits and pieces of my dating life with all of you on here, right? Who remembers that first Hinge date I went on? Does anyone remember? The show of hands? Nobody? Okay, I'll share it again. Vanessa, what happened to my first Hinge date? Do you remember? Do you want to share?
Wasn't it something like you went on the date and it went pretty well and then she ghosted you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vanessa, for outing me. I needed somebody too. Yes, so I go on this date, and for a while I've been like solo traveling and things of that nature, and I hadn't really put like, and I've shared this before, but quite a bit of the experiences I've had of dating happen naturally. You know, I meet someone, it happens naturally. I didn't really have to step into this divine masculine and pursue. So Hinge, right, is sort of this opportunity for me to pursue, to activate that masculine part of the self that Nikki felt safe when something happens naturally. Happens naturally between Nikki and a person, whether it's a fling, whether it was a long-term relationship, whatever it might be. Hinge, I had to actually put myself out there. I go on this date. I thought it went pretty well. Anyways, ended up being ghosted. But the story doesn't end there, okay? I had to look in at that reflection. I had to look in at those imbalances. And I had to continue to put myself out there. And the more I began to put myself out there, the more the brain began to rewire itself to experience safety in regards to dating. I began to feel more comfortable, more like myself. I had to share with all of you. If you guys think for a second, Nikki, with his pride and his ego, wanted to share with anybody that he was rejected, right? You're wrong. But that was my challenge. And what did I begin to learn the more I began to share? Nikki was ghosted. I began to get DMs from you guys. Oh my gosh, I feel like I can actually relate to you. I feel like you're not this robot. You're relatable. I begin to feel more love. The brain starts to feel safe in regards to little baby Nikki who felt rejected. And then of course, as this story progresses, and some of you know this story, I looked at the reflection and everything on Hinge flipped like 180. Like the dating life became abundant and all these other things, but I had to put myself out there. And I can go on and on and on with these stories of how my life changed with this corrective emotional experiences. Changing, leaning in, like I could go into all the advanced tools that we can get into on how to heal plus love your inner child. But a lot of the time, it's about taking those practical human steps, giving your inner child those experiences that they are pulled to experience. Little baby Nikki loved to sing, loved to perform, loved to be in front of people. For whatever the reason, I began to sort of take that on as not cool, not likable. But just by simply putting myself out there, the brain literally changed. It associated performance, okay, in front of people with safety. It now began to experience, the brain began to literally change in regards to dating. You can go date and you'll be safe. It had to get through the first couple of humps, right? And this is what a lot of us do. We put ourselves out there. Maybe it doesn't work immediately. Maybe you guys have your own businesses and you put your business out there in the world and it's not accepted. It's about putting yourself out there. So I gave a little bit of the lesson there, but I want to challenge you guys, okay? And my question to you guys to ask, and anyone can answer this, what is the lesson here? Now, some of you are like, well, Nikki, you kind of gave us a lesson. But I want to hear your take. What is the lesson in that story? Darsh, go for it.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Huge. Yeah, huge. Huge. That's beautiful. What else? Do we agree with Darsh? Resilience. Resilience is huge. Hi, Amy. Amy, you got... Hi, how you doing? You got something for us?
Yeah. I think that the other thing I really hear in that is like the freedom that flows out of really kind of sitting with it.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
Like, you're sharing that these kind of layers of like deeper and deeper experiences with yourself, and as that deepens, the freedom, like, it flows easier. Like, what you know you're wanting to do, what your soul is wanting to do, happens at this easier, in this more, yeah, I think free is the word that keeps coming up, but it doesn't quite describe it.
No, it's huge. It's a liberation, because if I'm doing something based on what other people are thinking, right? That isn't freedom. So it's a beautiful word that you use, Amy. It's a liberation from that illusion that within the mind, right? I had put these chains on myself, feeling as if, I was going to be free if no one knew that I sang, if no one knew that I was in these performing arts group. But it's even now, and a lot of you have been challenging me, right? And I've had friends, for any of you that listen to the podcast, and I'm still working on it, being more vulnerable, being more open, right? Because I have been programmed to feel that if I have this persona where things are all good in Nikki's life, I'm going to be liked. I'm going to be loved, because that is what I began. We have these mirror neurons. And when I was a kid, I began to see people that were cool and popular. It looked like everything was good in their life. So I was like, I need to take that on. But I've been getting to realize, like Amy said, the more I lean into the hurt, feel the hurt is step number one. Man, that is where I begin to experience the true freedom of my soul, the true freedom with Source. So we have some comments here. Let's see what the comments say. Okay, make an episode about it. I want to know. I should. This is the most effective understanding I've heard in a while. It's like, feel the fear and do it anyway, and it won't feel that way anymore. Yes, and I want to focus on this in a second too. Nikki at that point, third person. This is great. Nikki's talking in third person. Nikki going on stage was also prepared, right? I had been singing, I had been writing songs. So, and what I'm sharing this for is because we don't want to always jump in the deep end before we're ready. Because then the brain is going to attach that high emotional experience with, I'm not safe when I jump in the deep end. So I'm not that kind of person to go, hey, jump in the deep end before you're ready. Prepare. Prepare for what it is that you desire to go after. For me, for social media, my preparation was performing in front of a camera. Okay, performing in front of a camera. I gave myself a week, then put it out on social media. So prepare. It's not going to make the fear go away. And it's not that it's all going to be perfect. So like me performing on stage and getting that response was awesome. It was like this honeymoon phase. But me dating, getting rejected and ghosted, right? I had to go back out there. I had to, and this is why it's so wonderful. Our inner child at some point felt rejected by mom, by dad, by teacher, by friends. Why did little Nikki, from a soul perspective, have to get rejected on that date? Who wants to answer that? Why? Like, if we were to word it in that way, nothing has to happen, but if I were to word it in that kind of way, why did I have to get rejected? Who wants to answer? Amy, go for it.
I mean, it's an invitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go deeper. And I think life invites us until we get it.
Yes, till we get it. And get it is what? To love ourselves, right? Like, can Nikki get rejected and love himself? That's the invitation that Amy's talking about. Can I love myself? And at first, I felt the wound show up. I got ghosted. I'm sitting on my high horse. I'm holding on to this idea of and I've gotten rejected before, but like, it's been a while. I don't really get rejected. If things happen naturally, no. Everyone gets rejected. Nikki, go get rejected. Go feel that hurt. And I had to feel it. And then I had to take radical responsibility for my life. I don't even know how to put into words. My dating life literally flipped 180, but it could have never happened. And not only did dating, business flipped 180. My confidence flipped 180. But I couldn't have experienced that until I took that, and we use this phrase, messy aligned action. It's not necessarily messy, but it's going to feel messy because your hurt is going to come up. And a lot of us on this spiritual path, we want to do the inner work, which is great. We can get into all those advanced tools, but it wouldn't mean nothing without understanding the practicality of it all. That Source created this dimension so perfectly that it's life that's going to teach you the lessons, right? It's through life that is going to teach you more about who you are, more about your fears, and things of that nature. So I want to read more of these comments. Reconnecting to your innate qualities and let the world see you. Totally. So huge. Yes. The freedom that you get from being yourself is disgustingly good. Like, and I still have to challenge myself, right? And I have you guys telling me, like, in the DMs, like, Nick, you can go further, but that was good. I'm like, all right, thanks, guys. You guys are beautiful reflections for me. Like, go a little bit deeper. I'm like, fuck. All right. Get uncomfortable and take action. We learn through experiences. Huge. Honoring your essence. The world responds to this being seen. Oh my God. So true. I'm actually getting chills reading this because you guys are so spot on. That's what I noticed between the two stories is one was a big stage with prep and friends support, and the other was a few steps. One date first, then accepting the invitation to address the limited self, then the courage to try again. Totally. And it's kind of like this mentality of like, okay, so at some point in my life, I felt rejected. Now I'm going to put myself out there on Hinge. Now what does the mind want to do? It wants to judge Hinge. It wants to go to all these limiting beliefs of like, whatever the mind comes up with about dating apps, right? But what do we know on the spiritual path? Everything has negative aspects. Everything has positive aspects. There's a ton of people in the dating world that are now married that have met on Hinge. So I can judge it all I want, but it's worked for a lot of people. So first I have to purify my relationship with the app. And then for those that know my a little bit about my story about getting on Hinge, I had this limiting belief that people wouldn't want to match with me. Then I had to change that belief. So then I started to change that belief, and then more people started to match with me. And it like felt like magic. I was like, wow, this is trippy. Then I go on that date, okay? And it actually felt like it was going pretty good, but then I was ghosted. So then I had to address something. So I teach this idea that, we're the creators of our reality. So in that moment, my nervous system was telling me the exact opposite of that. Nikki, you're not the creator of your reality. Abandon ship. Don't go on this date anymore. And so I had a moment. I had an invitation, like Amy pointed out, to either fully subscribe to what I teach or go down this rabbit hole of, for lack of a better word, victimhood. I wanted to be victimized by my negative thoughts and beliefs. I wanted to just succumb to them. But instead, it was difficult. I felt the hurt. It was actually really painful because I just hadn't put myself in that, given myself that opportunity to be rejected. But then I legitimately had to take radical responsibility, and I looked in at the reflection. Okay, the reflection for me is I wasn't committed to certain parts of my life, so other people weren't committing to me. Everything flipped on its head. Literally, it felt like magic. And now I have this story to share with all of you. I have an opportunity to be more vulnerable. I activated more of my masculine energy, okay? Because what's going to happen, a true stepping into your divine masculine is to know yourself to an unwavering degree, regardless of what the world thinks of you, regardless. Okay, so I had to fully activate that self. And it's crazy when you begin to look in intuitively and look at the reflection and actually make those changes and truly experience that you are the creator of your reality. It's like actually super trippy. You're like, oh, this stuff actually does work. It's not just something I can teach. It's not something I can just talk about. It's really about, and the inner child begins to feel liberated from feeling sort of pushed down. I'm not just loved by this idea that Nikki hasn't been rejected, which I had been, but I've been holding on to some idea that I don't get rejected. It's ridiculous. None of you relate to that. I probably say that out loud and part of your brain goes, ugh, ugh. But when I say I've been ghosted, you guys are like, that feels good. There's something that feels good about owning who you are. I want you to think of anyone that you maybe follow in the world. It could be someone that's a leader in the world or just has some sort of platform. The reason we follow them is because we feel like we know them. We feel like we can relate to them. We feel like they're being themselves. Whether they are or not, it's a different conversation. We feel like they're being themselves. And so my challenge for all of you for this next week, and our next webinar is going to be on Monday, is to ask yourself this question. Okay, what parts of myself have I been ashamed of? Even if you think you're thinking well, the rest of the world is not going to think that's big of a deal, but it's a big deal to me. Okay, what are the parts of yourself that you have been fearful, shameful to share? And how can you begin to take those steps to literally change your brain, right? Take those actionable steps to make those changes. So that's the question I want you to ask yourself this week. What are the parts of myself that I have been ashamed to share? Maybe I've been ashamed to share that I compare myself frequently, that I don't feel as successful. Maybe I'm ashamed to share that I feel kind of alone. Okay? So yeah, we're gonna get some questions here. Sarah's got a question. Okay, Sarah, awesome. Let's see what we got. Is it ever a reflection for that area of life? We talk so much about a reflection in the relationships pointing to an imbalance in another area of life, like body or career. Could there ever be a reflection in one area of life indicating imbalance in that same area? Okay. Sarah, do you feel like elaborating on that question and what you mean for me?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
I think just exactly kind of what I said. Okay, so let me give an example, and maybe that would
cool.
Like, so I was the one who was crying on my bed. I think.
Yes, I remember. Yes, you're doing. Look at you now.
I'm sitting up.
I know.
I'm healed.
Gosh.
So, I'm still really sad, but I'm working through it. Which is great. Like you said, you get these reflections and then it points to different things.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering, like, with my own thing, like, damn, I attracted this very avoidant attachment man. He, like, ghosted me. It really fucking sucked. Similar to yours, actually. And I'm wondering, like, could that just be a reflection of how I show up in relationships? Or could that just be, like, something, like, if I attract somebody like this who treats me like this, even though I have given him boundaries to not do that to me, right? I don't know. Could that just be a reflection of me in relationships and not necessarily how I am to myself?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so like it's sort of asking like, okay, so if I attract a reflection with someone not putting me first, maybe I put myself first, but in relationships I don't. Is that kind of the question?
Yeah.
A little bit, right? Like, okay, yes. It totally can be a direct reflection of that. Like, I don't know how many of you have experienced where your self-image is high, you're feeling yourself, you're feeling good. You go out in public and all of a sudden self-image plummets. Like, wait a minute, I was just feeling myself in the mirror like 20 minutes ago. I don't know if any of you have felt that or can relate to that feeling. And so, this work, it's sort of a two-parter, Sarah, and it's actually a really great question. There may be moments in our life where we are emotionally available for the self. We're not avoiding ourselves, but when it comes to relationship, or when it comes to socially, really, we abandon the tool a little bit, okay? Like for me, my work, like when my self-image has gone, and not just physically, but it has happened physically for me, for sure. My self-image would be high, look in the mirror, I'm feeling nicky, but then I get in like a public scenario or myself on camera. The work for me now is like socially to start increasing my self-image in those moments. Okay, so Sarah, yes, to answer your question. So if your intuition is guiding you, you're going, you know what, intuitively it feels like I'm whole and complete in these areas where my partner is not. Now it's sort of, this is where intuition like is awesome because it allows you to identify the needle in a haystack blockage. And for you, it could be specifically, you're not giving yourself, and let's just generalize, let's use the word love, that love in the relationship. And so the answer to your question simply, it's yes. It's like, okay, now how can I begin to give myself love in that relationship? Does that answer the question, Sarah?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I'm just tickled at how complicated even the most simple, like, spiritual lesson is.
No, it's totally true. Like I always say like the spirituality is as complex as it is simple. Like we all hear the word gratitude, and we've had webinars on gratitude. But it's also kind of like complex if you think about it, because we have this messy subconscious mind. And a lot of us were like, great, I'm going to go be grateful. We'll go out into the world and be grateful, but we don't emotionally feel grateful. So now we're spiritual bypass, and we're like, God damn, this shit, So you're right, it is as complex as it is simple. But really great question, Sarah. Thank you for being here. Thanks for asking. Okay, so let's get into the next question. Okay, question. Amadine, hi. I have all these father figure type men in my life who are right now rejecting or being distant or even having a go. That's how it feels anyway. Making me feel rejected for who I am and not being perfect. Okay, so the difficult thing to do in these scenarios, it's hard because, Amadine, we don't want to bypass the feeling. And this is where this stuff kind of becomes difficult. Okay, but it's also finding the inner strength. So it's first feeling what you got to feel, but then stepping into your empowerment. Okay, so if I'm going like, okay, I take responsibility for this, who wants to answer how that could be a slippery slope? If I go, I'm going to take responsibility for this, and anybody can answer this. Sarah, go for it.
Could it turn into self-blame?
Yeah, it could turn into blame. You start to blame yourself. So I want you guys to all take sort of a little mental note of that. If your empowerment feels like blame, it's not empowerment and it's not responsibility. You have not taken radical responsibility for your life. So it's sort of an art to feel what you got to feel, Amadine, get it out of your body. But then the question, so when I got like ghosted, trust me, I felt it. Like I felt it, I got it out. But then I had to take responsibility and go, okay, I'm creating this. If I'm creating this, that means I can change it. That's a big deal. Okay, that means I can change it. Here's what I want you guys to answer for me now. If I'm taking radical responsibility for my life, okay, how is it also not my fault? That's kind of trippy, right? Like, I'm taking radical responsibility for this really difficult experience, and anyone can answer. How is it also not my fault? And how do those two things coexist? Did I stump us? Vanessa, were you kind of leaning forward? Did you have something for us?
So one thing I've learned, like the teachers or the parents or the friends, they were taught not so great ingredients, and then
Yes.
they gave me those ingredients.
Nailed
saying,
it.
Here, go make something great with it.
Yes.
But it's like you gave me the ingredients for a shitty cake, and all I can make is shitty cakes.
Nailed it. You got it exactly, Vanessa. That's exactly it. We take radical responsibility knowing that our energy creates our reality. It's not our fault because no one gave us the tools on how to create our reality. If someone gives you shitty ingredients to make a shitty cake and you make a shitty cake, is that your fault? No. But you do also have the ability to make an incredible cake, right? So that's where those two things coexist. Nailed it, Vanessa. So I want you guys to realize, and Amadine, for you, okay, feel what you gotta feel, okay? Now you're starting to harness the tools, okay, especially being in Source Clarity Club, to begin to insert ingredients that are gonna allow you to take responsibility and change those outcomes. So you start to go, where am I not valuing myself? Where am I not putting myself first? Where am I not seeing myself to the highest degree? Where am I not literally treating myself like the queen I am? Right? That is the questions we want to start asking ourselves. And it's difficult. Here's why it's difficult. This is kind of pain in the ass, but it's actually helped me a lot. The body becomes addicted to negative emotion. And so we think like, I want to feel better. The body's like, no, we really don't. Because like technically we're safe not feeling safe. Technically I'm still alive is what the body says. I'm still alive. So if I'm feeling good and I am in harmony with the self, who knows what could happen? I could die. That's what the body says. Okay? So the body's addicted to that negative emotion. We have to find ways to create safety. So does that help, Amadine? Okay. Awesome. Okay. Is fear and judgment rooted from fear or rejection? Fear of judgment, excuse me. Is fear of judgment rooted from fear or rejection? So any fear, you guys can take this, is simply just like, I was going to say fear is fear of the unknown, but fear, like if you are fearful of something, it is because you are not aware of what could happen. And again, it literally goes all the way back to like, you will not survive, right? If I get rejected, if I get ghosted, then people aren't going to like me, and it's going to create this rabbit hole of me not having high self. This is what the subconscious does. And then all the way till I'm going to be kicked out of my tribe. So how do we like dissolve our fear? Clarity, right? We begin to go worst case scenario. And I know this sounds crazy, and start to come up with solution for worst case scenario. So like if you have a fear of getting rejected, start to talk to your brain. Okay, if I get rejected, what can happen? Well, I'd feel bad. What would happen if you felt bad? Well, I would have to start to find ways to take radical responsibility in my life, and you change the narrative. You start to see how the worst case scenario potential would be the greatest blessing for your life. Okay, so if you have a fear of getting rejected, go there. Okay, Spiritual people might tell you don't go there. No, go there and ease the fear. Okay, you actually dissolve it by going worst case scenario, this, that, and the other. Okay, we're gonna answer a couple more questions here. I hear us talking about reflection work. Is working with healing wounds and reflection work entirely the same? I see them as separate in many ways, although there is some overlap. Maybe there are moments where reflection work doesn't work and it has to be wound. So they kind of go hand in hand in a lot of ways, Amy. It's sort of like if I have a fear of getting rejected, it's two things. It's an unresolved emotional wound, meaning there's a my inner child felt rejected and not safe when I felt rejected, but it's also simply an emotional imbalance, meaning there's simply an area of my life where I'm rejecting myself. But it all goes back to an unresolved emotional wound. So like something as simple as like it was like this morning or the morning before, like I woke up with the right side of my back in pain. With intuition, you could trace that back to something that happened either in childhood or a past life, okay? But it also has to do with there was an imbalanced area of my life that has been deficient in love, and it manifested in the right side of my back hurting. So it's sort of both. You can separate them, but there's also a time and place to go, you know what, I need to look deeper at this if it is frequently showing up. Does that make sense, Amy?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Great question. Okay. If I got this nanny job and I have only been there 2 days, but I just want to leave that job and start doing more content or making candles, is that a reflection of avoiding myself, or is it my higher self saying, yes, girl, create more content? So there's been jobs that I've had that I've wanted to leave, and thankfully I had my intuition at that point, and my higher self's like, no, we want to be here. Why? Because going after your dreams and goals is going to require you to develop a certain level of resilience. It's going to require you to see the perfection in the things that feel difficult. And so for you, the question is, I got this nanny job, but I also have this pull to go after my dreams, to go after my goals. The question is, can I do both right now? And truly, if we leave a job feeling unresolved, if we're the creators of our reality, it's simply reflecting our energy and it's going to show up somewhere else. Now, with your intuition, you can see like, okay, am I meant to be here? Am I meant to get this lesson somewhere else? But for now, for Maria, for you, this is a really great lesson for you to stay, okay? To find the perfection in where you are right now. And then it's going to help the career. It's going to help your business because you're going to begin to activate a certain level of resilience, seeing the perfection, showing up with joy, and things of that nature. Okie doke. Okay, so Darsh said, Nikki, you then say is fucking our fears, aka facing them trains our body to create safety, obviously with some prep, and then simultaneously program the new beliefs while we do it to really help with shifting. Yes. So again, there's all these great integration tools that we can get into, but it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a waste if we don't take on this foundational step, which is like lean into your fears and allow life to teach you the lessons it's meant to teach you, and don't let them beat you down. Right? Don't let them, it's like, let life teach you the lessons it's meant to teach you, right? And then we can start to create new beliefs, and then we can start to do the energy work and things of that nature. But man, I had a massive awakening at 16 when I put myself out there in front of a lot of people. And a lot of us on the spiritual path, we forget the practical steps. That's the hard shit, is doing the hard stuff. I was terrified to sing in front of all these kids from my high school. Terrified, but it actually changed the trajectory of my life completely. Okay, so let's answer 2 more questions. Vanessa wrote, is not being able to find rest and restoration from sleep also part of your brain keeping you safe when you're making changes toward feeling safe, being unconditionally loved? Yeah, I mean, all of the times we don't feel safe, because you gotta like think about it this way. In nature, when we don't feel safe, is because we are getting potentially chased by a lion. So not feeling safe was keeping you safe, okay? Your body, when you have exam the next day or a driving test, whatever it might be, literally thinks that a lion is chasing you. So it thinks it's protecting you. So whatever the reflection it may be, like not being able to find restoration, well, the body thinks, if I go to sleep, something bad is going to happen. A lion is going to pounce on me, okay? And so it all goes back to sort of like these, the primal aspects of the self, but we're here to alchemize that. That's why we are human beings. We are like source in physical form, but we're also these animals, and we're meant to alchemize that animalistic part of the self and really step into your source self. We are source in physical form. Each of you are your own healer. You're your greatest healer. I always say that the greatest teacher is life. The greatest healer resides within you. And so if you're not getting rest, Vanessa, during sleep, it's because we're not giving ourselves rest during the day. You give yourself some actual rest. Not scrolling on social media doesn't count. Actual rest in the day, your body goes, okay, I'm safe to feel rested, and it'll feel safe in sleep. Really great question. I'm almost choking on something. Okay, our last question. Tell us everything about Lake Shasta. I'll have to do that for a podcast. I think, is that what you're talking about, Darsh? Yeah. But yeah, there are theories that, thanks Vanessa, I'm like in mid choking right now. That at the center of Earth, there is a civilization where there's hollow Earth people that are, yes, higher dimensional beings. And at one point I used to think, maybe they're like in a different dimension and you couldn't see them physically. But when I was traveling, I was in Oregon. No, wait, where was I? Oh yeah, I was in Oregon. And Lake Shasta is like right on the cusp of Oregon and California. So I just left Lake Shasta. And I was in this hot spring with these people that are like from Lake Shasta. And they're like, oh, that's there. I was conversing with them and they're like, oh, that's so cool that you were in Lake Shasta. You didn't go above the tree line, did you? I was like, no, why? They're like, oh my gosh, there's like these really tall, long, white figures that many people have had encounters with. And they were like so serious. Like these people like weren't spiritual. That they're like, oh yeah, my grandparents have talked about it. But there's a woman that lives out there who channels these Hollow Earth people. Is it Diane Robbins? I think you guys can fact check me on this. I think Diane Robbins. So if anyone's interested in this, okay, you can, and of course use your intuition to vet, to comb through what's accurate and what's not. But it's pretty interesting. Diane Robbins. Yeah, she talks about Telos, which is the society in the middle. But anyways, Lake Shasta, Mount Shasta, not Lake Shasta. Mount Shasta is like sort of a portal where they enter. Are they dark force related or no? No. These are not dark forces. These are creatures of light, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so look, you guys are incredible. So fun getting to work with you guys. Next Monday, we're going to be hosting another webinar that's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll see, so look out for that. And then we've also just opened up, we've had Source Clarity Club, which is our intuition course, but it's also self-love, it's energy work, it's this whole thing. We've opened it up to people that have joined different offerings, so it's like sort of evergreen. But we are opening up a wait list for it to bring in a new group of souls, okay? So you guys will get an opportunity to join that wait list. It'll either be on social media because it's going to go out to the public. It kind of has been, the wait list. So for you guys that are interested in joining that, and yeah, so look in your emails or on social media for the wait list for that. And I want to thank you guys for just taking the time to be here, to listen to my story. And this is such a beautiful opportunity because I get to challenge myself, to put myself out there more. And it's just such a joy to have all of you guys and interact. And yes, I will see all of you wonderful souls on Monday. Cool? Alrighty, beautiful humans. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you soon. See ya. Okay, I can't find the end button. I found it. Look at us still here. Oh my gosh. Hi, Vanessa. Okay, see ya.